I am so sorry for what you are about to hear. Before we begin, thank you very much to today's sponsor, Raid Shadow. We are no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I. No, I am not singing that. There's only so far I'm willing to go for this joke. But thank you very much for joining the Patreon campaign. I know you wanted me to sing it. DMCA, like I can't like legally, like covers are not allowed. So there's only so far I'm willing to go. Also, I have an unwritten rule that the shoutouts have to be something that's inoffensive, and I feel like this pushes it because I am offended. I am offended. But thank you very much for the support. And I'm sorry to everyone who just cringed. This is not my doing. I am a slave to the system. Alright, let's get back on to talking about cartoons, which, yes, the Prime episode reviews are going to be returning, hopefully this week. I'm starting to finally get caught up. But we also have a brand new set of Earthspark episodes to cover, so we are going to be doing that starting with episode 19, a Stygi situation. We get to see Grimlock, we get to see Jawbreaker come into his own, and we finally get the final protoform to scan something. So this picks up pretty close to the previous episode, Home Part 2, to the point where I think it actually takes place the day after. That's pretty close. So Grimlock's back. Apparently he's just been stomping around until he makes his way all the way back to Witwicky. I don't know if he was following them or if he just kind of got led there, just like smelling energy. I don't know how he ended up at their farm. Let's say it that way. But he ended up at their farm. It goes to a battle where the Multobots actually do work together really well in order to put him down gently. They stun him. I'm not gonna let's not mix that just in case. Okay, all right. There's also some continuity from that episode too, because Bumblebee is still nursing himself back to health. We see here with an Energon IV drip, which is a really funny image. I don't know why, but it's just bizarre. But this is where we get what we thought we were going to get with the last batch of episodes, which is our first not viewing, but first listening, I guess, of Keith David in Transformers. Goliath himself is Grimlock, and it's weird. Like, for starters, it's a Grimlock that uses proper language, proper grammar, and that's always weird for my brain to hear. He doesn't even like slip into it. Like, he's not a Cyberverse one where in Dino mode he speaks traditionally and in robot mode he speaks eloquently. No. He just starts screaming and like roaring in Dino mode. So it's only robot. So it's weird. It's weird. I love to hear him as Grimlock, but also my brain just keeps going, that's Goliath. So it doesn't quite blend as well as I think they would. It's still super cool. It is still super cool. He's got his own recovering to do too, which we'll get to, but a big chunk of the episode is devoted to him developing this little bond with Jawbreaker, taking a mentor role to him. I do like how it seems that a lot of the Terrans seem to have taken taken to like specific Transformers as like almost either like a mentor or a father figure. In the case of Twitch. And things like that are fascinating to me. I really like the blend there. So yeah, Grimlock kind of takes Jawbreaker under his wing, because Jawbreaker really wants to like prove himself and prove that he actually can do something and not be left on the sidelines. And it works. It works really well. We get to see a little bit of what Grimlock can do. He's got the Cyber Stomp. He's got like the Seismic Stomp thing from his Cyberverse toy, which is fun. But beyond that, we find out that, Jawbreaker does have a side of him where he can be aggressive. He's not just this gentle giant that he always tends to be. He actually can, like, find a spine, and he actually can go into battle. So it's a development for him, and it's a good development too. I mean, the poor boy is in a Transformers show. He's gonna have to fight something eventually, so he can't be just kind of like this kind of bashful, quiet bot all the time. He's got to be able to find himself, and that was what the episode was about. Was Grimlock trying to bring Jawbreaker into his own. There's other things going on. Naturally, there's other things going on. Grimlock is still suffering from Mandroid's brainwashing from the bot brawl. It comes back in flashes throughout the episode. Usually when Jawbreaker is being a little bit too aggressive with trying to practice with Grimlock, and more so when he starts bringing up Mandroid. I'm assuming that Grimlock was under his control for a long, long time if this much of the residual programming is still in there. I do think it's a really clever way to give us both a red-eyed and blue-eyed Grimlock, though. So whichever visor you prefer, it's in this show. It's in this episode. Let's see. What else do we got here? So Jawbreaker gets way too excitable a lot of this. He's still gentle at heart, and but he still lacks understanding of how to use what he has. And he even interrupts the training session between Hashtag and Elita 1. Like I said, it's fun to see these mentor roles forming. To the point, he's just getting way too aggressive. He's getting way too aggressive. It's hard to get Genie back in the bottle, as it were. So it's fun to watch. I mean, it kind of is, because it's cool to see Jawbreaker actually like finding out more about himself. But because he is still like spoiling for like another sparring match for Grimlock, and Grimlock is still trying to get him to stop, just so he doesn't accidentally flip out at him. He stomps while they're in this quarry, and that reveals this. A actual dinosaur skeleton, very conveniently under one layer of rock, almost entirely intact. If you know anything about fossils and dinosaurs, this is great visual for a cartoon, but it's actually pretty rare to find fully intact dinosaur skeletons. This is an anomaly. Especially because these particular dinosaurs were not found in Philadelphia, and they were found in like the Pennsylvania area. It's a Stygi Moloch, and it's an interesting alt mode. So there's a couple things about this that got pointed out. So one, yes, it feels a little bit contrived that it's fully formed dinosaur skeleton just happened to be one layer of dirt deep, and the Grimlock shook it free. That's already weird. It's a little contrived, but it's a good cartoon moment. So I'll give it a pass for now. And you know what? I kind of like the introduction here. Because like as he's walking, like Jawbreaker's like mesmerized and like walking toward it. And as he walks toward it, just parts of him start to change into his new body. It's a cool moment. It is a cool moment. And yes, finally, all the Multobots have an alt mode. What was pointed out is that this is not normal. You're not supposed to be able to scan like dinosaur bones in order to get an alt mode. So this is weird. So again, the Terrans show themselves capable of something the typical Transformers are not, which kind of raises the interest level again. But now that he's a Dinobot, he's even more ramped up. And I actually noticed there's actually a noticeable change in the voice actor's performance to have more aggression to his voice, kind of more of a rumble to his voice even. So there's a conscious change in Jawbreaker's depiction. Might be just when he's in beast mode, might be an ongoing thing. You will see as the season proceeds. But he does eventually get under Grimlock's skin to the point where he has a lot of these Mandroid flashbacks. And it's funny, like there's this flashback where he's like, Mandroid is super huge and he's holding Grimlock like you would, like, I don't know, like a mouse or something like palm-sized pet. and he puts the like his huge brain control chip on him. It's like Grimlock's like mental like dream of feeling helpless, but it's as like ominous as it is funny. It's a really weird scene visually. But you know what? It explains where Grimlock's head is right now, and his head is still like mired in Mandroid's programming. So yeah, super aggressive Jawbreaker does get him to accidentally go on a rampage all over town. Okay, maybe a little bit much. Maybe a little bit much. So yeah, now for starters, it's an amusing sequence for me because in order to have this like big open, they have this big open area like a town square almost, in order to have Grimlock stomping around and causing destruction without like having too many buildings in the way. Almost the same way that like Power Rangers like frames its giant Zord battles to always be in this like empty square of the city. It kind of felt like that. Weirdly enough, because it's an open area and there's a clock tower in the background and it's like a stormy night, it almost has like a Back to the Future vibe to it, which is super weird. But while this is going on, you do have a good bonding moment between Mo and Jawbreaker, which is always good. And it kind of levels out Jawbreaker enough to like kind of put him into perspective of like, he doesn't want to, you know, he wants to make sure he stays who he is and doesn't get kind of lost in this like new persona he's finding. And when he joins in the fight, it's weird. Again, it's kind of weird because he's dedicated to like, he's the one that can get Grimlock's brain out of this shape. Like, if anyone can get him to snap out of this, it's him. Jawbreaker's known Grimlock for a day. One day. Compared to Elita 1, who presumably has known him for, you know, eons, millennia. So that's a little bit weird. It's a little bit of a weird one, but you know what? Okay. It's Jawbreaker's episode. It can work. And yeah, all Grimlock needs is for someone to just say, like, I can see through this rage. I can see through this dino mode. I can see you. It's not like notice me senpai, it's senpai being noticed, which is enough. So it's a little sappy, it's a little corny, but you know what? It feels like a Jawbreaker solution to a problem rather than just like bashing through something. You know, it's more to the heart, which I think works for the character. And yes, seeing Grimlock hug someone is also super weird. It's a good episode, though. I mean, I'm really glad to see the growth for Jawbreaker, and finally we get to see the alt mode. By the way, they do mention that Dinobots are a thing in this universe. They actually use the phrase, but we, of course, never get any explanation about where the other 4 are, or if there are more than just 4 or what. But apparently it's a thing. So maybe something for future episodes, maybe something for next season. We will find out, I guess. But overall, yes. Solid episode to highlight Jawbreaker and kind of bring him into his own, both with the alt mode and his newfound spine, as it were. All right. So that out of the way, we also need to discuss episode 20, Disarmed, which starts with a great comedic bit where Swindle is trying to find an escape from Ghost's underground tunnels and ends up right in front of Optimus Prime. It's a funny moment to start an episode, which usually these moments, usually the catch at the beginning of the episodes is like super tense and like suspenseful. This is just comedic, and it's a nice little change up. They do get into a chase scene, which makes me realize how rare chase scenes actually are in Transformers. Considering most of the characters turn into cars, it is kind of weird to think, like, yeah, the movies have chase scenes. You know, it's a live action movie. It's an action movie. They are like required to have some kind of chase scene. That part doesn't surprise me. It's when animation so rarely goes for that kind of throws me off. That's weird to me. But it's a really nice chase scene where Swindle is actually targeting the humans, knowing Prime is going to be more interested in protecting them. So Swindle gets to show off some cleverness here, which is always good. He does get in a shot on the rear where, you know, Robbie happens to be, and we find out Robbie has some abilities of his own. This cyber shield that he can generate from his sleeve, for instance. I really like when Transformer cartoons do this, because obviously, like, it's always weird where there's always a child going out into battle with these Decepticons, and you don't know why they're there. You know, Spike in G1 almost always caused more problems than he solved. So, yeah, you know, I can see this. This works. This works for me. If they expand on it, which obviously they are, great. You know, I like to see that they can actually, like, defend themselves. You know, it does bring up the mom being the mom, and Dorothy going full protection mode feels like the first natural reaction anyone's ever had to these situations in a Transformer show. But it's short-lived. It's short-lived. Prime wants the kids to come down to Autobot headquarters so they can properly study the sleeves. You know, we're 20 episodes in, and someone just now decided, hey, you know that mysterious tech that bonded itself to these humans? Maybe we should check in on it. Maybe we should actually look this stuff up. So that is exactly what happens. We get to see the kids at Autobot headquarters, complete with Teletran 1. Oh, I'm sorry, Teletron 1. Nobody in this episode pronounces it correctly. You know, got annoying in Beast Wars, and Beast Wars did eventually catch itself at the very end of the series. And then you're going to... well, don't worry. It's only in this episode. It's Teletran in future episodes, so they haven't figured it out now. Okay. Point being, Prime recognizes that the power from the sleeves is from Quintus Prime, who is the one who was doing all the whispering in episode 1, and the Ember Stone is Quintus Prime's official relic. So we already knew that Quintus was involved. This just confirms it a little bit more to our characters, so they have the information. And then it's time for lore. There is a lot of lore. So the only tech that they know of that matches the sleeves is the Matrix of Leadership. So the Matrix of Leadership is a thing that Optimus Prime has in this universe. And it, just like classic, it's a big glowy ball with handles in his chest. So all of that is retained from G1. Also, the 13 primes are a thing in this universe. And there's enough here that they are, you can see, like, recognizable elements. You can see the Star Saber. You can see the Forge of Solace. You can see the Enigma of Combination. And yes, the Matrix of Leadership. And some of them are recognizable. You know, Alpha Trion is recognizable. Quintus, who, you know, we've already had, you know, visuals here in this show of. But there are also a few that aren't quite recognizable, and there are a few omissions unless he's been unless they have been completely redesigned for this show. Micronus does not seem to be in the lineup, so we either have an altered version of we have some kind of alteration to the 13, but they are a thing in this universe, so any one of them could be a potential plot point at some point in the show. We do retain Orion Pax as a thing. And we also retain Alpha Trion being the one who gave him the Matrix. So all of that is retained from Generation 1 as well. So that gives us a general idea of, like, where the backstory is for all of this. And we're putting a huge amount of importance on Quintus Prime. It's funny. It's, you know, past shows have picked out their potential favorites of the 13. Technically, Cybertron did with Vector, but the 13 wasn't a thing back then. He was adopted into it. But you know, we've seen other primes take the forefront in other shows. You know, in RID 2015, for example. So it's always fun to see, like, a show play with just the idea of who one particular prime is. But we've still never had a show that really explored all 13. Just saying. So, what do we do here? Oh, by the way, at some point when Prime sees the shield on Robbie, the exclamation from him is Primus's beard. That's not a good replacement profanity. I'm just going to put it out there. Buy the Matrix, buy the Allspark. Those are more traditional. Primus's beard sounds like something a Viking would shout. I don't know. Let's move on. Let's move on to Ghost. Because Agent Croft is after something from Mandroid. He's got something that he needs to build her. But he's too busy dying to make it. So the Cybertronian tech is eating away at him too much, and he is not handling it well, to say the least. But in the process of all of this, he does actually accomplish a few things here. So I do notice as I look, some of my slides are out of order, so we're going to skip past that one, go straight to this one. When he gains access to Ghost Tech and their database in order to try and research his condition and this tech that Croft wants, he also manages to tap into the Autobot database, which so happens to tap into the webcam that apparently Prime left on, that just so happens to be turned on exactly when they are describing exactly what the sleeves are, Quintus Prime, Emberstone, etc., and they're being overly descriptive about it in that very cartoon way of, we have to inform the villain in this way that sounds natural, is like why we are like reiterating things that we all just confirmed and spoken to each other. It's a contrivance. It is. It's the kind of contrivance you have to do in order to get these plots moving along in cartoons. So, okay, fine. I'm not happy about it, but I will accept it. So at the very least, what we do get Mandroid to actually like start to figure out like what the sleeves are, and that means like he has a path to actually save his own life. So now he's super interested in the Malto kids, who are back in the holodeck, by the way. I'm just going to call it a holodeck because that's what it is. It's a training room. No, it's a holodeck. And they're doing good working together. I think the fastball special with a human might have been a little bit reckless for someone who's just learning how to use their abilities, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a squishy human who really wouldn't want to do that. Point being, they're working well. And there's a great line in here. There's a great line where someone mentions that Mandroid spider bots make great level 1 enemies. And Mandroid listening and goes, level 1? He's so offended that his creations are a level 1 threat. So, you know what he does? He ramps up the threat, which is where we have to go back to this screenshot that's out of order, because he taps back into Hashtag's mind momentarily, because she's the one operating the Danger Room's controls. So, it's a nice little callback, because she does recognize it. She does recognize, like, not again, she shouts. So, she's somewhat aware of what's going on. And what happens is Mandroid ramps up the difficulty so much that the enemy they end up with is a Decepticon Megatron. And at this point, the entire episode, the last third of the episode, basically breaks down into one long drawn-out fight with Decepticon Megatron, while Hashtag scrambles to try and get some kind of access out. There's a panel. They're in the box canyon the space bridge was in during the flashbacks, but now instead of the space bridge in the center, there is the control panel that gets them out. So that's Hashtag's whole thing, is to make a run for that, hack their way in, clear out all the files, etc., and save the family. So that while that's going on, everyone else has to try to survive Megatron, who's at full power here, and not being as nice as he normally is now. So it's a long, drawn-out fight. Everyone gets their time to try and stop Megatron, and everyone fails until we get to the point where he's actively attacking Robbie and his shield. And luckily, the shield seems to operate the same way as Captain America's, where it's just like absorbing any kind of like shockwave or like kinetic energy, because This is a giant robot swinging an energon mace at Robbie, and he's just like blocking it here, and it's like not driving him into the dirt. But then something happens. Robbie shouts what is essentially a command word. In my darkest hour, Quintus, give me power. I mean, are we going to run that as a catchphrase? We're going to run that as the morphing sequence? Whatever it is, it seems to work. This is what happens to Robbie. Robbie goes full Green Lantern. It's actually kind of reminiscent to me of Mini-Cons and Armada fighting Unicron, where they just kind of have this green, glowy energy version doing the fighting for them. And this is actually cool. It ups his size. It obviously ups his power. It actually lets him stand up to Megatron, even when it seems like he's on the ropes and this the ability is not working out. He actually does manage to get the upper hand just as hashtag unlocks the room. So he does technically beat Megatron. And it's a really interesting moment because now you just realize just how powerful they're going to make these kids. Like, how much power are they really hiding behind? We've seen the weird stuff in the Home 2-parter with the Maltobots. Now we see this with the kids having their own weird abilities. It's a fascinating idea here, where this little family on Earth all seems to have these incredible Cybertronian powers. And it's interesting to see how far they're going already and how much farther they could go. This does wipe out Robbie. Yeah, to the point where, yeah, I mean, this would be the second time in this episode they fake his death, by the way. And apparently Moe's sleeve actually lets her have some kind of like med scan healing thing. I don't know what it is. But she does something that wakes up Robbie, but the expenditure actually disables the sleeve. None of the Terrans can sense each other anymore, and Robbie and Moe cannot sense them. This leaves them in a really weird position that they have never been in before. Oh, and it's just the beginning of the bad situations, because now Mandroid knows about the Ember Stone. He knows that it could have the power to cure him, and just is super powerful in general. Oh, and we also have to address something else, but we won't find out about that until the next episode. Suffice to say, it gets worse. So there's a little bit of plot contrivance to Disarmed, but you know what? It sets us up for the rest of the season really, really well. Not only in making sure that we show off that the kids have some abilities of their own, but also in seeing that Mandroid now has an actual goal, rather than just being mean to robots for the sake of being mean to robots. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Overall, really good pair of episodes. If we're doing what I did before and finding links between them, I would say Discovery. I mean, Jawbreaker discovering who he really was, discovering his alt mode, Robbie discovering his powers, and Mandroid discovering his goal for the season. So, yeah, a lot of things discovered in these two episodes. And plenty more to come. But that will do me for this set of episode reviews for Earthspark. Still really enjoying the series. Still absolutely love it. Go check it out if you haven't. Whole season's out. It's definitely worth it. And yeah, thank you for watching through another long video. And again, I apologize for the intro. That's not my doing. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alafi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this.
All right, you seem to have this. 5 minutes.